how many of you have ever gotten a grant and an award where you promised if you got 3 years funding, you would then sustain it? All right, okay, right? Isn't that what we always say? You'll give us 3-year funding, we'll sustain it, right? I'm not going to ask for a show of hands of how many of you actually did sustain it, because I think there have been some cases where it happens, but it doesn't always happen. And I'm pleased to say this was one of the cases where Tom had such a good idea that people just immediately saw the value of it, that we continue to have that dialogue. Now, at the first NTLS, Tom did a paper and a slideshow that had a vision of where he thought we should go, and that vision is published. His presentation is published as an article, an editorial in NTLS. But he's also going to share some other visions for other things that he's doing. So I will just turn the mic over to you, and you can talk about whatever's of interest.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Good to see so many friends here and people I haven't seen for a while. It's very encouraging. I find this everywhere I go, that there are people from the PP3 era still working on their projects, and so that's very encouraging. It's disappointing that it got unraveled in the department, basically, but it's very encouraging to see that all of you have kept this energy going out in the field. Glenn keeps saying this was my idea, and I always thought it was his idea, actually.
Well, I was happy to take credit for it.
Yeah.
You suggested it.
That's what I was going to say. Now that I see that it worked, I might take credit. Well, thank you all for the chance to be here and kind of renew friendships. I'm now with a group called the National Commission on Teaching in America's Future, and we're based here in Washington. We used to say that we're the organization that has more words in our name than staff, but now we have that many staff also. So one of the things I want to talk about is that we keep talking about the technology, but significant change doesn't happen until the business model changes. So that Amazon used the technology, but what they really did was change the business model for marketing publications and ultimately marketing and all kinds of things. eBay used the technology, but what they really did was change the business model of marketing to make it possible to have a consumer-driven, truly managed market. So Google used technology, but what they did was they changed the business model for accessing information. And so Encyclopedia Britannica and Wiki is another business model change. So true change happens when the business model changes. And that's what we need to focus on in education. We're looking at technology, but we still have the same business model, the old business model. Predominantly standalone teaching in self-contained classrooms. And we're trying to augment that with the technology, but we need to change that. So in education, we need to change the business model also. And the business model needs to change by transforming schools from teaching organizations into learning organizations. We have to stop thinking of them as teaching places and think of them as learning places. I think you all understand that. We've been pushing on this agenda for a while, and wondering, how are we going to get change? We don't get change in big systems in this country, especially education, unless something big breaks. I think something has to break, and then people step back from it and say, well, we need to do something new. In education, something's about to break, and I should probably preface this by saying that when I was in the Department of Education, and we were creating the challenge grants, and the E-rate, and the PP3 program, somebody said that my motto was, if it's not broken, break it. I want to, qualify what I'm going to say here. I think that our school staffing model is about to break. And this idea of a standalone teacher in a self-contained classroom in a few years will not be viable. Now, why is that? First of all, at the front end, where we've always focused our energy on improving teaching quality has been on recruiting, preparing, and training young teachers. How do we keep staffing our schools with the next generation of teachers, okay? But all during the 90s until today, the attrition rate of those young teachers has been steadily increasing. The attrition rate of young teachers after the first year has increased by 50%. So 50% more teachers leave now after just 1 year of teaching than they did 15 years ago. After 3 years, a third of all new teachers have left their classrooms. Some of them have moved to other schools, searching for a better place to teach, but a lot of them have just left. After 5 years, 46% have left their classrooms, and those are the national averages. In urban districts, it's 20% a year. Okay. So if you think about 20% a year, 4 years, you find out that in a lot of urban schools, the teacher dropout rate is actually higher than the student dropout rate. The turnover and churn of young teachers is undermining teaching quality. When you ask those teachers why they leave, in the school, this data all comes from the Schools and Staffing Survey. They say they leave for 3 reasons. I don't feel prepared for the challenges I face. Now that I'm here, not only am I not prepared, but I don't have support. I'm teaching alone. The doors are closed. I can't get access to colleagues to help me. And third, I don't see a rewarding career path in front of me. I see teachers who have been teaching for 30 years who are soon doing the same job I'm doing. I don't see, it's not just about pay, what they're saying. They're saying, how do I grow professionally? Where do I go in this field? How do I grow? I don't see it, and they leave. What we started to look at was all during the 90s, that attrition steadily increased and rapidly accelerated. And we were saying, well, if you look at the world of education before the 90s, those things were pretty much the same. In other words, before the 90s, people were prepared pretty much the same way. They had the same kind of support once they got into the classroom. They were teaching alone. And it was the same career path. So what happened? Something changed during the 90s that started to drive this attrition rate up. And what changed was the world around schools changed, but schools didn't change. We have a new kind of a globally integrated knowledge work economy. And young people, especially young women, it's still 76% a female occupation, who once didn't have a lot of career options, now have lots of career options. And they're basically saying to us, look, I grew up in the 21st century. I'm digitally connected, and you got me doing a factory or a job, and I'm not staying.